Welcome back to another Vista tutorial here at Life.Church. In this video, we'll be talking about the console, the playback, and the fixture chooser views. Let's get to it. Up at the top left-hand corner, let's select the second tab from the left, which is our console view. This view is a software representation of our physical console. If you receive your lighting file from a remote programmer, most likely what you'll have to do is identify your console. Select the three lines at the top of the console and click Identify Console. You should see the lights on your physical console flash. If for some reason that's not the correct console and the one you're selected on isn't correct, click the next console tab at the bottom of the screen and repeat the process. If the software console that shows songs on the screen doesn't make your physical console light up, you may need to switch the assigned device. You do this by clicking the three lines next to the software console and select Switch Assigned Device. You can then select the correct console that's sitting in front of you and it should sync up. So let's say that we want to add songs to our console. Well, what is a song in lighting terms? A song is called a cue list. It's a list of different cues or looks that we have per song. Luckily, adding a song to our console is super easy. All we have to do is drag it from the right side onto the console on the left. If you have songs from 2013, it may be hard to find some of the songs that you're looking for. I'd probably start by trying to delete some of those files, but an easy way to organize them is to click the toolbar in the top right-hand corner, and in the Auto Arrange section, you can select Arrange by Name. That puts the songs in alphabetical order. Now that we can see all of our cue lists, we actually want to look at some of the properties. The reasons these properties are important are for special events like Baptism Sunday. Let's talk through what some of these are. Right-click on our cue list and select Properties. The first thing that we see is priority. What this means is that one cue list can override another. High could override normal, and normal could override low. The programmer option overrides the editor mode itself. If we skip down a little bit, we'll see Ignore Release All. Release basically means that the cue list gets shut off. If Ignore Release All is on, that means the Release All button or cues won't release the cue list. The last thing to note in this section is the fader autoplay. This tells you whether the physical movement of the fader will play the cue list as it's turned up, play it as it turns up, and releases it when it turns down, or just releases it when the fader is turned down. So, let's move on to the playback view. In our playback view, we can easily see each cue list as well as each cue inside of that list. We can also see different properties of these cues, but we'll talk about that a little later. The last thing I want to mention is the Release All button. Earlier we talked about how release will shut off cue lists. We can double-click the Release All button at the top of the screen to release every cue list. That is, taking into consideration the Ignore Release All is set to off in each cue list properties. Let's move into something a little more fun. Let's go to the Fixture Chooser view, so that's the third icon from the left at the top. Right here in the center of the screen, you'll see a couple things that are pretty cool. One is a physical representation of the lights. You can click and drag to select specific lights, but there's a really cool feature which is groups. Groups literally allow you to select any group of lights that you want. Let's talk a little bit more about how this is all laid out. You can lock and unlock your layout in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Once your layout's unlocked, we can actually move a light by clicking and dragging it. We can align the lights by right-clicking and selecting Align. We can align our groups, and we can also add labels. Let's add some quick labels to our front lighting. Now that we're done, we can lock it back and continue to go. Let's look at some more cool features. One of those is the multi-quick picker. That's basically just a fancy word for presets. We can find presets for everything by selecting the drop-down. Let's say we actually want to control the lights ourselves, though. Over on the right-hand side is the Features tab. This is where all of the functionality of the light exists. If we select the light, we can actually change the intensity, the pan, which is left and right, the tilt, which is up and down, color, gobo selection. The gobos are the patterns that the lights can project, gobo spin, zoom, and focus. If you need to get a little more in-depth with these, you can actually go to the different tabs to see the individual parameters. The very last thing I want to talk about in this video is the live cancellation button. Let's first talk about what live is. Let's say that we have a cue list that's playing. If we actually select the lights and make them change, it will override the cue list. That's why it's called live mode, because we're editing live. In order to exit live mode, click the little red circle next to the live button, or click the clear button at the top. So yeah, there it is. I would encourage you to play around with some of the lights, some of their features, and all of the software. There's pretty much no way you could break it, but if you do, just put it in the 911. I'll see you in the next video.